Today on Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. In the plastic shop at MCU, Dave works to install the 23-foot Albury dash panel in time for delivery.
Well, now it's time to get Dave back on this thing and wrap it up because Barry's ready to pick up his boat and we need to get this thing finished.
Steve, the legend Altenhoff, must rescue an outboard that took a salty plunge.
When I pulled the spark plugs out, I looked at them and it had evidence of water on them, so I knew there was water in the cylinders.
FS boating editor George Labonte joined Scott Dunnick and his son aboard their custom-built 20-foot center console.
While this boat now spends most of her time patrolling the shallow waters of the St. Lucie River looking for snook, there was a day in her younger years where she was on the waters of Costa Rica looking for roosterfish.
And the 31-foot Contender project is on the move as Brian visits TNT Custom Boat Works to order brand new fuel tanks. All coming up on Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat.
So if you guys can recall, last week we had a 23 Albury in the shop that was actually getting a little mini refit by the customer, but it came to us for some custom touches that he just wasn't able to wrap up. We had to do a non-skid job on the inside of the boat. We actually went with two-tone to offset some things that really looked nice when it was done. On the outside of the boat, we tied in a red all-grip boot stripe. It really set the boat off nicely. Once we pulled the boat away from Mike in the paint shop, it was time for Robbie to get that taco rub rail installed. Let me tell you, that really pulled the boat together. Dave was making some really good time on the dash panels, but I had to pull him off for an emergency job. But now it's time to get Dave back on this thing and wrap it up because Barry's ready to pick up his boat and we need to get this thing finished.
So after our little distraction, we were able to come back here and go ahead and wrap up our panel job that we were doing. So a little bit of finish work, some polishing and some fine tuning. After that, we went outside to the boat and started to prep it for epoxy and gluing it down, because we want the effect of no screws. We mixed up a little bit of two-part epoxy and we used a combination of 5200 and a lot of clamps. And I can't stress that enough. We use the epoxy because it's fast set, and the 5200 does take a little bit longer for it to cure. So over time, the epoxy really is irrelevant because it'll actually kind of crack away if the boat's flexing a lot. The 5200 will not. It'll keep its properties and hold that panel on there, but it'll let it move a little bit. The epoxy helps us just set it a little quicker and hold the panel from shifting. You're gonna see that I use an awful lot of clamps, a couple different styles, squeeze clamps, C-clamps, because certain parts of the boat you can only get a certain type of clamp in there, so it's have a good variety. So while we're using all these clamps and tape and everything, Mother Nature decided to give us another curveball yet again. We waited a little bit. We were able to get back out there and wrap it up and get everything glued down. And we're gonna let it sit 24 hours. Unless Brian's got more stuff for me to do, then it could be 36 to 48 hours. And then we'll get back on the boat and go ahead and finish installing all of our components. So after we waited our 24-hour period, we were able to get up on the boat. It's a very complicated procedure here. You gotta be careful removing the clamps. You don't wanna drop them, then you have to bend over. When you're removing the clamps, you're looking for the 5200 to look like you had good seal, so usually it oozes out evenly all around your openings. This way you know you got good adhesion. Good adhesion. That sounds pretty good. So after everything's all removed and said and done, just give it another final look and kind of notice needed just a little bit of touch-up work, so I use my barrel sander to just make sure everything just slides in nice and easy, because you don't want to snap stuff in there, because then you can snap and crack your acrylic. So on this project on the dash panel, we're installing a bunch of these new cup holders because everybody's using the big tumbler cups now, like Engel makes. And these really accept it real nice. They won't blow out as you're underway on the waterway and whatnot. After the cup holders were installed, we went ahead and installed our chart plotter, depth finder, and then we moved on to our Yamaha products. We put in our binnacle, key switch, our Yamaha gauge. And after all the setbacks we had, it was just real fulfilling to have this thing done, and I hope the customer enjoys it.
So finally, the 23 Albury is all wrapped up. I gave Barry a call. He came over to the shop to take a look at the boat. All right, Barry, so basically we had a couple of holes we had to fill just to make it to where we had a solid area. We glass and glue everything in. The black acrylic really came out nice. We custom cut everything to fit. We polished all the edges nice on the outside. It's a really nice layout. It came out really good.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. And then we got the two-tone on the non-skid. You guys redid all our non-skid.
The non-skid came out really nice. I was really glad with the selection we went with on the color. It really tied into the existing stuff on the inside. I know you had to bring the wife in to check to make sure she was going to be
we had the right
happy
color
with it, and it really worked out good. And I hope you guys really like it.
Yeah.
It really finished off nicely. Following out to that black rub rail, that really completed the boat.
Yeah, the boat needed the new rub rail, and then the bottom paint, you guys did that sandblasting first.
Yeah, we
because we
completely
had all
stripped the
those
bottom, all the
years.
old layers and years of paint. It's actually going to make the boat more efficient. You're going to notice that the next time you get out on the boat and run it. All right, so that's it for the Albury project. She's all wrapped up. She's out of here. Now I can't wait to see what the boat looks like when Barry gets it all wrapped up with the finishing touches.
When we come back, Brian and Steve at MCU get an urgent request to save an outboard that went overboard. This segment brought to you by Fiberglass Coatings, the largest selection of fiberglass materials in the United States.
FGCI is a leading supplier of composite materials, family-owned for over 60 years and headquartered right here in Florida. We have the materials and technical expertise to service manufacturers, repair professionals, and DIYers alike. Our gel coat color matching is a favorite of seasoned professionals and weekend warriors. Access our online store at fgci.com, call to speak with a product specialist, or visit our stores in Fort Lauderdale or St. Petersburg. FGCI is your partner on boat projects big and small.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join Steve, the legend Altenhoff, as he must save the day for the owner of an outboard that went under in saltwater.
What's up, man?
So, flip the skiff, and I got a 15 horsepower four-stroke for you.
Flip the skiff.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to stand 3 guys on one side.
No, how about 800 pounds of mangroves?
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at it. All right, so we run a busy shop here, and you never know what's going to happen next. I had these 2 guys come in. They're actually professional arborists. They trim trees for a living. They were using a John boat with a 15 horsepower Yamaha on the back. They actually overloaded the boat and flipped it and sank the engine. When an engine goes into salt water and it's submerged completely, you need to address that situation right away. So they did the right thing by getting it in here to the shop. Now I need to get Steve on this thing, take a look at it, and see what we can do about saving it.
We had this U-boat captain decided he was going to see if this engine worked underwater. Now this engine went underwater, so they brought it to me as soon as they can. First thing I'm going to do to it to try to save the engine, I'm going to pull the spark plugs and drain the engine oil. When I pulled the spark plugs out, I looked at them and it had evidence of water on them, so I knew there was water in the cylinders. And so you can tell if they're wet with water or if they're wet with fuel, the fuel's going to evaporate, but these plugs were soaked because the cylinders were full of water, so we got to get that out right away. It's a 4-stroke engine, so it has a crankcase, so I'm going to pull the oil plug. Sure enough, as pulling the oil plug, it was full of water. When I drained the oil, I was just looking to see if I had got water out of the crankcase. And normally the water is heavier than the oil, so that's going to come out first. So I got a good stream of water, and then I got good solid oil. Good thing, like I said, this engine wasn't running when it went down, so that was a big positive to save this engine. And then I'm going to go ahead and rinse it off with fresh water because you want to break up the salt as much as possible. But once after you spray it down with fresh water, you need to get an air gun and just go ahead and blow all that water off the engine. And then I'm going to hit it with some type of corrosion inhibitor. Oh, I had the nozzle pointed backwards. It made me feel like an idiot, but hey. Corrosion protector is very critical, especially in a saltwater environment. You know, it just keeps the salt getting into connectors and, you know, sitting on the block and just start corroding away at it, you know, spray it down. I'm going to remove the oil filter. I'm going to put a new oil filter on. I'm going to fill the crankcase back up with oil. And now I'm going to pull the engine over a couple times to see if there's any water in the cylinders. And of course there was water in both cylinders. Cool. So I got all the water out of the cylinders. Now I'm going to jump over to the carburetor and I'm going to drain the float hole, see if I've got water in that. So I pull the screw out and I notice, okay, well, yeah, we've got fuel in the float hole, no water, but it's ethanol fuel. That's no good. It's very important, you know, to see if you got water in it, because water is not going to burn when you go to crank the engine up. You need good, clean fuel in there. I'm going to put a new, fresh set of spark plugs into the engine, get them in. I'm going to hook up a good fuel supply, non-ethanol this time, and I'm going to get this engine up and running. Fortunately, they got this engine out of water real quick for me. And another good thing is it's a mechanical starter. It didn't have a starter, so I didn't have to worry about the starter being full of water. But I got the engine right up and running. I'm going to shut it back down, and then I'm going to drain the oil again. And upon draining the oil, I had evidence of no more water in the oil, so I'm going to go ahead and fill it back up, get it back up running again, let it run and build up the temperature again. Ran real good, had no problems. I saved this engine, especially being for a workboat. You know, they're not going to be down as much, so they won't lose as much money. So I'm going to let it run for a while again, and then I'm going to shut it off, and I'm going to give it a good dose of Yama Shield, and they'll be ready to come pick it up and get back to work and making money. The sooner you get it out of the water and get the water out of the engine, the chances of saving it are a lot better if you let that water sit in for a period of time. I recommend taking it to a service center that is authorized to work on that particular engine, but bring it to the legend.
All right, looks like Steve saved the day again. We got that little 15 horsepower Yamaha running again. If these guys take care of this engine and maintain it properly from here on out, this thing will last them a lifetime. The motor's running great, and now they can get back to work.
When we return, FS Boating editor George Labonte joins Dreamboat owner Scott Dunnock and his son aboard their custom-built 20-foot center console in this week's One Man's Dreamboat segment. This segment brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here.
At Yamaha, reliability is a family tradition. Meet the next generation. 4 new advanced technology-inspired inline 4-cylinder performers. Bred from the reliability and boater satisfaction that is part of Yamaha's DNA. They prove that when power gets lighter, faster, stronger, and smarter, boating gets even better and more satisfying for boaters like you.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join us for this week's One Man's Dreamboat segment with Florida Sportsman Boating editor George Labonte as we feature anglers who have already launched their dream. Florida Sportsman began these features 30 years ago, and the dreams just keep getting better.
This week we're going to meet up with Scott and Sean Dunnock, a father and son team who've tackled a very ambitious project on a really unique boat. He really wanted to teach Sean a little bit about getting your hands into it, how things work, how to put stuff together and be able to fix it yourself. This was a perfect opportunity to do so.
So we picked up a project about 7 years ago, which was a 43 Merit. My son and I, he was younger at that point. He's 16 now. As we redid that project, I wanted to find a project that he and I could work on together, and saw a little center console boat that was completely unfinished and asked, what's that boat? And basically, it was a boat that brought back from Casa Vieja Lodge in Guatemala, and I thought it'd be a perfect project for Sean and I to work on together to redo.
So I first saw the boat when he took pictures on his phone, and I haven't seen it in person. And I came home from school and all I saw was a hull of a boat. No motor, no console, no anything. So I jumped up in the trailer and I looked down, there was just plywood sheets laying in the boat. I said, what did he get us into this time?
So the first thing we had to do was figure out the deck configuration and the boat. But the easy part was laying the deck. The hard part was what?
Fairing the deck.
Yes.
That took a lot of hours.
If I remember right, between fairing the hull sides on the inside, the floor, I think we went through 2 gallons of all fair just to fair out the boat. That probably took us 3 months.
Yeah, probably just for that.
just to fair out the deck and the inside of the boat and prime the boat as well.
A lot of sanding.
A lot of sanding.
So when we put in the floor, we were deciding on which color to paint the floor, and we wanted to keep it more like an Albury 23, and we saw the light blue floor and we wanted to match that, keep it more tropical. What do you call it?
Bahamian.
Bahamian.
Look.
The end result with this little 20-foot Costa Rican boat reflected a lot of that really attention to detail. The boat came out really pretty.
One of the unique features about this boat that I never expected when we bought it was it is a wood boat, and how it performs in a sea and in a, since we bay fish in Stewart, there's always generally a light chop, like it's breezy out today. And how does it run when you're running it in a light chop?
It runs really smooth. You really don't feel much in it. It just eats it up because it has a really deep V, and when you put the trim tabs down, it just eats through it. And plus, I love the flare because it really, you do not get wet in this river. Even going offshore, it really sprays it out. It does a good job.
When this project was completed, Sean had a boat that he could use on the St. Lucie River and the waters around Stewart, Florida. And like any teenage boy you'd imagine that had a boat at his disposal, he is always on the river running around fishing.
My personal preference for the boat, I love to snook fish around in the river because I'm not allowed to go offshore yet. But when I will be allowed, I definitely will go. But snook fishing is my choice around here.
Why did we decide not to put a top on it?
Actually, I decided, and I think it looks a lot cleaner without the top. Definitely looks a lot better.
And the drain bridge.
Oh, and so when I'm snook fishing, there'll be like 20 boats waiting at the train bridge, and I can just put the rods down and slip right under it.
One of the challenges on this boat was how to mount a trolling motor. Since it's all wood, the boat actually has a keel on the boat that's about 4 to 5 inches deep, all the way up to the bow. So to figure out how to mount on that, get the wiring done, and then also get a trolling motor that was big enough and long enough to get to the water was a big challenge as well, because the bow is really high on this boat.
Yeah, and we had to go with the biggest one they made, and I had to pay for it.
That came out of his pocket.
Yep.
So
but it was definitely worth it, because it's nice with a trolling motor.
While this boat now spends most of her time patrolling the shallow waters of the St. Lucie River looking for snook, there was a day in her younger years where she was on the waters of Costa Rica looking for rooster fish.
So over the last year and a half, we found out that the boat was built in 1984, 1985 in San Jose, Costa Rica. It was built by a company called DCN. They only built 2 of these boats, and one is obviously here, the other one we don't know where it's at. It's got a lot of history and it's hard to find. So,
and it rides good.
And it rides good, yeah. And it's different. Nobody else has a boat like this around here.
After having spent the day on the boat with Scott and Sean, it was really evident to me how much pride Sean took in this project. By the way, he was just really attentive to everything on the boat. It was obvious that he really appreciated everything he had.
After spending $6,000 on the hull and $20,500 on repairs and custom modifications, the cost of Dunnock's Dreamboat comes to a total of $26,500. When we return, Brian at MCU aims to make headway on the 31-foot contender project by visiting TNT Custom Boat Works. This segment brought to you by TNT Custom Boat Works, specializing in the design and manufacturing of quality marine products. At Marine Customs Unlimited, our professionally trained staff is committed to making all your boating dreams come true while providing unmatched attention to detail and quality. Specializing in custom boat building and modifications, fiberglass and gel coat repairs, insurance claims, upholstery and canvas work, custom dash panels, Yamaha outboard sales and service, and more. Marine Customs Unlimited. You dream it, we build it. Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join Brian at MCU as he heads to have brand new fuel tanks built for the 31-foot contender project.
All right, so the guys have been tearing into this 31 contender. They're actually doing a great job, and we're a little ahead of schedule. But there's quite a bit of work. This boat went through Hurricane Irma, and it was damaged pretty bad. Not to mention the fuel tank situation the customer had prior to the hurricane He knew he had some leaky fuel tanks, he just didn't know how bad it was. When these tanks get to the age they are, when you're starting to push the 15, 20 year range, you're probably gonna have a rotten fuel tank. I mean, that's all there is to it. These things are in a saltwater environment and they corrode and they rot away. So now that the guys have the tanks loaded up on the truck, I'm gonna get them up to TJ at TNT, so he's got perfect templates to copy and build me some new ones. I've been dealing with TNT now for almost 20 years, and having them right in my backyard in Fort Pierce, Florida is like a major benefit to me. Not to mention their in-house powder coating. Now I've just got to install it on the boat and I'm all wrapped up. This is the way to do business. So as soon as I got the TNT, I went inside, I got the owner TJ to go over everything that we had to get done. All right, 31 contender, standard tanks. We're not gonna modify them this time. We're gonna keep everything the same quantity. I definitely want to go powder coated this time. I mean, you can see how bad the corrosion got on these things.
Yeah, pretty bad. How old are these tanks?
This is a 90, what is it? It's an old, maybe, I don't even remember. I'm doing so many jobs at this shop, it's hard to keep the specific details in my head all the time. But it'd be a good idea if you're gonna drop your fuel tank off to a fabricator to know all this information prior to showing up.
No changes on these at all? Everything in the same place? Same fittings?
Same thing, just no corrosion.
Well, I see you got 2 pickups in these tanks. You still want to go with 2 pickups?
What do they got, one plugged off?
Yeah, one of them's plugged off. It looks like it's been plugged off since day 1.
We don't need it.
Just 1 pickup in
one
each?
pickup. So when it's time to have these tanks custom built, you gotta remember, there are details and things that can be changed. That's what we did in this situation. There were actually multiple pickups, so I told TJ to eliminate one of them. At the same time, if we had to add a different fill or a different vent, it would be easily done after the new fabrication has been processed. Big question, when are we looking at?
For a price?
No, time.
Time?
Do I ever ask you price?
No, you don't normally ever ask me that. It should be done by middle of the end of next week.
All right, good deal.
Yeah. I'd say probably Wednesday or Thursday.
All right, good deal.
Get started on them Monday, Tuesday. They'll be done. I'll order some more material today and we'll be ready to go on Monday.
All right, buddy, sounds great.
All right, let me get some guys to come out here and unload this with the forklift and we'll be ready to go.
So as soon as he has those tanks powder coated, I'll get the guys up there in the truck, we'll get them back here to the shop and we'll get them installed.
Next week on Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. The 31-foot Contender's new fuel tanks are built to last by a powder coating treatment at TNT. FS Boating editor George Labonte joins Jeff Toole and his son aboard their custom-built 1987 Alumacraft. And the Contender project moves ahead in the fiberglass bay, with deck being dropped in place and more. The filming of Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat has been shot on location at Marine Customs Unlimited. You dream it, we build it.